You're listening to the Shit You Can't Make Up podcast, a conversation with friends, hosted by Marisol Sanchez.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for doing this with me.
Oh, you're welcome.
Today I have a very special guest. And by the way, I'm not making eye contact with you because I'm looking at the
Okay,
audio.
that's okay. I can do my eyes.
I have my teacher, Larry Hobbs, who is, are you the owner and proprietor?
Yes.
How do you want to say the name of the show?
Of Hanuman Ashtanga Yoga Shala.
In Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm going to give you a little bit of background on Ashtanga and why it's different than what I think a lot of the listeners probably know about yoga. So Ashtanga is and please correct me as I know you will. The way I describe it is I describe Ashtanga yoga as a discipline. It reminds me of disciplines of martial arts where you go to one teacher, you study for many years, and it's a continual study, and it goes from teacher to teacher to teacher. It is not something that you can go get certified in 2 weeks or in a weekend. You are certified, or not certified, authorized, not only in level 1, but level 2 Ashtanga. And you're the only person in North Carolina, right?
Now 2.
There's now 2.
Yeah, Jonna Smith. Yeah.
Okay, for a long time it was just you.
Yes.
So you went to study, you've actually studied with Guruji, is your first teacher.
In 2002, I met Guruji, but Sharat, his grandson, Sri Sharat, has been my teacher since 2008. He's the only teacher I've ever studied with in Mysore. Okay,
and you go back almost yearly to India to study.
I've had 7 trips, just finished my 7th trip.
Okay, so some people describe it as power yoga. I always got offended after I practiced it when people would say power yoga because I'm like, it's not power yoga. It's not power yoga. Okay, so let me backtrack to how we met. So I actually got certified to be a yoga teacher at a local yoga studio. And it was really not because I thought I wanted to be a yoga teacher, but because I wanted more. And they touched on Ashtanga a little bit, but we've talked about it, not enough. And I was finding myself not, it was in a fork in a road where I was like, I'm either going to keep doing this yoga study at this center, or I needed something else. And I believe it was at the beginning of my separation. I don't even think I was in the divorce portion of my life yet. But I came to you at the Y, and I asked, could I come study with you? Remember that?
Yes, that's a long time ago.
A long time ago. And I fell in love with Ashtanga. Well, I fell in love and hate with Ashtanga. Ashtanga is not easy. It's how many asanas are there?
Oh, many.
It's
many through all these series between primary, intermediate, advanced, AB. Many.
There's a lot. It would take me to get through everything a good hour, 15 minutes, hour, 30 minutes. There's all the asanas you have to memorize, which for series 1, remember I used to carry the piece of paper and put it under my mat?
Cheating.
It took me like 7 months to memorize them. Then you also memorize the Drishti Point. The
Drishti Points, Vinyasa Count.
And Drishti Point is a focal point. So for every asana, which is the pose, for every pose, there's a place where you're supposed to direct your eyesight, and there's a breath count. And why that's so important in describing that is because this is where I first felt that I ever got into a meditative state. Meditative state simply being defined as going within, just going within. It didn't happen initially. It happened, I would say, probably 6 months after I probably knew the sequence. Do you remember when you would come up behind me and I'd jump?
Freak out, yes.
So it's the first time for me that I ever considered myself meditating. I was moving meditation, which I've heard and read and studied is found in a lot of different disciplines. People run and get into a meditative state, long distance runners and so on. So that's my history with Ashtanga and meditation. Then when I went to study with Sharath in India a couple of years later, and there I learned a little bit. I was more interested in learning, seeing all the monks and being around them, how they got into meditative states. And then, I did a little bit of studying with different things, but nothing worked for me as much as the moving meditation till about a year ago, maybe. I went to study transcendental meditation, and that's a discipline too.
Yes, it is.
It's 20 minutes a day, twice a day. You meditate, and it took me longer to get into a meditative state doing that. I couldn't practice Ashtanga at this point because of some personal issues, and going to do yoga at other places, I couldn't get into that meditative state because they play music or they're talking, and it's not the same. Like, I could stretch my body, but it's not, I can't go with it. And I've asked you about meditation. You consider your Ashtanga practice your meditation.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm not one to sit, so I like the movement and then the stillness. Yeah, and it's like when you start your practice, you learn the practice. Then once you learn the practice, the asana, then you start refining it. And then through the refinement, you learn how to incorporate the breath with the movement. And then the focal points, the drishti point, the meditative point, the state of the pose where you're holding, and then that brings you that state of mind where you should be oblivious to everything else that goes on around you, and you're only focusing on that one point in time as you're holding the asana.
That's what happened with me was when I got the drishti points and I was concentrating on the breath count. You're focusing on other things and how your body is moving into these and out of these positions that I stopped hearing the inner dialogue, which was huge, because my inner dialogue, you don't curse, I'm trying to be super respectful. But my inner dialogue was awful. It was just a constant loop of just negative feedback that was just on a loop. And it wasn't even like words, it's just like a feeling of unworthiness and not being strong enough. And to find Ashtanga and to find a meditation practice at the height of my divorce, I think was huge for me. It's a huge blessing. It's something I've always look back on and go like, I remember, in fact, I don't know what was going on. I think it was something, we were in court, my ex-husband and I were in court or something, and it was just a crappy time. And I was practicing, it was just me at the shala at the time, and you grabbed me by the shoulders and you're like, you're stronger than you think you are. Like, you could pick up where I was emotionally, which was always huge, and I always thank you for that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
They say that quote, when the student's ready, the teacher shows up. I've always attributed that to you. Like, there's no way the me before my divorce or the me before Ashtanga would have ever thought that I could do Ashtanga. Ever. Never. Ever. Ever. Never. Never. Chakrasana.
Chakrasana, yes.
Chakrasana is this transitional asana that is, I don't even think it's challenging, but I think there's this mental...
It's a fear.
It's a fear.
It is. It's a fear.
It's a fear. I don't know how to describe it. How would you describe it? Like, just a little...
It's a rolling halasana with a little push. That's it. That's all it is. But you can ask a 5-year-old, hey, do this, and they'll do it, and they won't think about it. They're not in their heads.
Exactly.
As the older we get, the fear sets in. You worry about you're going to get hurt.
And
then you don't even need to try, because you're probably going to tweak something. Yeah. But if you just go with it and just do it, because a lot of times in India, like Sharath just says, do it. You just do it. You take it for face value and you do it. Get out of your head, go.
Yep.
And it happens. And then you go, wow, I didn't realize it was that, I just get that fear out and I can do things, But as long as that fear's in, that doubt sets in, and if it's already there before you start, then you need to back off.
Yeah. No, I remember when the first time I did it, it was just sort of that moment, like, I'm going to have to curse to explain this moment.
Knock yourself out. Just because I don't, you can.
It was sort of like, fuck it, I'm just going to do it. And boom, I did it. And I remember it was you and there were some other people at the show, and you were like, you did it. And I was like, yeah, I did it. And then after I did it, after I, kinesthetically could feel what the...
And then you ended up like probably one of the smoothest chakrasanas in the shala.
But it was a moment of like just... not even facing your fears, just getting on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Just like, and I have found that repeatedly in my life, that when I get to the other side of whatever I'm scared of, it's never as bad as whatever I was scared of.
Totally. I think sometimes it's more of a drama issue than it actually is anything else.
Yeah, and that's
in a lot of things in life. You're like, it's like the drama that, then you look at it, it's like, it really wasn't that bad.
Yeah. But I think that, I try to get, when I speak of a layman person, someone who doesn't do yoga, or their only knowledge of yoga is going to a class here or there. Like, they're just not... and I feel like that's such a disservice to them. Like, do yoga, or find a meditation practice, or do something. Because when you learn to, like, be still, and you learn to not listen to that inner dialogue, I think you start to live, like, a more complete life. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah, like the things that people react to now that 5 years ago I would have totally reacted to as well. Now I don't react as much. President Trump's in office. If you knew me from 5 years ago, you'd think I'd be like, suicidal. It's not. It's not. It's like I can take a deep breath and I can check in on my senses, look around, and realize that, okay.
It is what it is for now. But it'll be gone at some point. Exactly. So it's like you can't drive yourself nuts worrying about things, because in the end, I mean, it's not going to matter. It's going to be gone. Yeah. And life goes on. We adapt, and it's just, don't sweat stuff that you can't have control. The only thing you can control is yourself. What you do, your actions, that's it. You can't worry about all the other stuff around. Yeah. You can worry about your family is one thing, but worrying about what's going on everywhere else, it's like, you'll drive yourself insane trying to do this now and worrying about it. It's like,
well, being worried or being angry are two emotions that
and that's just energy wasted. I mean, you'll make yourself sick worrying about stuff like that. Yeah. So you just have to let it go and just...
It's like a fine line, though, right now with the politics. Like, I want to know enough to be informed, but I literally can only take maybe about 5 minutes of it before I'm like, okay, I'll text a friend. Let me know if something happens, because otherwise I just can't do it. There's not enough yoga or meditation for me.
No. And then it defeats your yoga practice, and you're trying to stay calm, collected, and, and focused on what's going on with yourself. And just being a nice person, it draws out that stuff is like that you don't want to be. The person you don't want to be, because you're going to be angry. You're going to be
snappish.
Yes, like and you're going to hold judge. Friendships are lost because of disagreements. When it's like usually it's trivial. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Like, they can believe what they want to believe. They can do what they want to do. But in the end, you just worry about yourself. Everything else tends to take care of its own.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about one thing, because I would say Ashtanga can kind of feel puritanical. Like, it's, it's a set sequence. It's, you go to India, you study in Mysore, you find one teacher. I have found in meditation, because I tried a lot of different versions of it when I couldn't have my Ashtanga practice, I went and first transcendental meditation was very hard for me. It wasn't natural for me to sit still for 20 minutes. So I tried other things, and we've talked about it. There's some people that believe meditation is this one thing. It can only be done this certain way, or yoga can only be done this certain way. And I kind of disagree with that. What do you think?
No, I think there are many, many types of meditation. Because there's many, many meditation teachers out there. But I always say that, if you're going to study something, study with someone that's just a meditator, not someone that's that dabbles in everything. You know, they do a weekend workshop, they take up meditation, and all of a sudden they're teaching meditation, and that's a crop. I mean, I feel like, look at their experience, look who their teacher was, research who their teacher was, what they did. And then if you think that's the teacher you need to go. And then you might get there and say, this is like, there's a lot of steps I need to do to be able to get here, and I've already spent an hour and I'm nowhere.
Stop doing it.
So you look, because there are different methods of meditation, just like there are different methods of yoga. Iyengar yoga, totally different from Ashtanga, but similar in a lot of ways.
It's a discipline.
Yeah, and so you have to like do the research before you seek out.
Yeah.
Or you may just bump into someone and all of a sudden, you know, that's your teacher. You know.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. I feel like, especially with the internet, there's a lot of different ways to learn stuff without a teacher. Not that I do think the teacher-student relationship is the most valuable. That direct.
Yeah, because, you know, the tutorials are great, but at some point you actually need to be with someone that can visually see what you're doing and that you're not just going through the motions.
Yeah.
Just the fact that, are you sitting proper? Are you breathing? Are you engaging? Or is your focus really there? Or are you still dancing around with your eyes and everything else? And, you know, even though you're breathing, like, what are you doing? Are you truly meditating? Or are you just sitting there with your eyes closed? You know?
Which is still better
Which
than
is
nothing.
fine. It's good because you do have that calmness. And then if you can just control that, but you're never going to get the mind like talk. You might get a flash.
Yeah, I get.
But clearing everything out of your head, I mean, I find it impossible.
No, the best I can do is withdraw my senses, which is like I'll always be focusing on something. It can't be. I haven't, you know, hit enlightenment or anywhere close.
Because
to
even
it.
during your practice, if you listen to the breath and you find the rhythm of the breath and how smooth it is, if it changes, then you know something's not totally where it needs to be. So you have to take a step back and reconnect back to your breath. And then find that peace and calmness in what you're doing, so it's steady and sturdy, but, you know, nice and even. And you'll find that peace again.
Yeah.
But in the practice, if your eyes are dancing all over the room, then you have no focus. You're just kind of jumping around your mat, and your eyes are just dancing everywhere. If I know what you're doing, and you're 3 rows over, then something's not right.
Yeah.
So it's better to let's just sit. Like you said, sit with your eyes closed. Check your posture, because we do tend to slouch the longer we sit, and make sure that from time to time check, breathe, and just on one point. You know, you can think of your child's name. Say your child's name. Say anything.
You say
or just use your ears and just listen to how your breathing is. You know, what is your breathing doing? It should be calm. It shouldn't be loud. It should just be smooth.
And I think a misconception of people who don't have a meditation practice is they think that you're supposed to completely be blank, like just this inner peace. It's not like that. To me, actually, it feels like, in the beginning at least, it's like my brain was just racing, like it was on ADD crack. Like it was just but then if you keep going back and you keep going back to it, and you kind of just... The best way I've heard it described, I think it was on an app actually, was that your mind's like the sky and thoughts are like clouds. The clouds are there, you just let them pass.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden you have the clear spot.
And then you have you get the little glimpse of the clear sky.
Yeah, you do. You get a little glimpse, but it doesn't stay.
Yeah.
But it will. And then the clouds come out and then they move away again, and you get a little glimpse. And you may not get that glimpse. You might meditate every day for a week, not get anything. Every day for a month. And one day you go, whoa.
Wow.
You have that little aha.
And then you get a little more energy that day. I found the biggest thing with me is my reactiveness. Like if I haven't meditated well, I'll be more reactive to my kids, to my surroundings, to what's happening. But if I have it consistently, if I'm doing the exercise, if I'm breathing, if I'm practicing yoga, if I'm eating well, if I'm living my life in a balance, I'm much less reactive. I'm much more chill and just, calm.
So years ago, we did a workshop with John Scott, and we went to Italy, and it was recommended by David Kyle, a good friend. And so, David said, you need to go study with John. And John, he had a nice way of doing things. It was very simple. And he would just call it just sitting. You just take a sit. a sit, and just breathe. And he had a little counting method, and it was just close your eyes, breathe, and just prepare yourself, calm yourself before you practice. And I found that's like wonders. You just get your head in the game, or out of the game before you stand there and begin your practice. Yeah. And even afterwards, sit, clear it, just kind of
calm the energy.
Yeah, and just keep it calm, and then just think of maybe one thing that you did in your practice. Just how something felt at a certain point in time. Just think of it, and just focus. But you can't focus on everything. Just at one point. And I usually just try to just go as blank as I can. My thing normally, when I sit, I just listen to my breath. I let my ears, like if I can hear, if it's rhythmic, smooth, natural, fine. If I find I'm trying to push force the inhale or push the exhale, then it's like, I need to check in.
See, I have, my practice has kind of been, I've self-modified it to where first thing I do is I sort of sit quietly, but it's at my desk, and I write. I have a journal, and before I eat a cup of coffee or anything, just write. And usually it's what I'm grateful for, because that'll just put me in a mindset to, I don't know, it just sets the tone for my day. Now, the way I do TM, but sometimes I feel like I need the mala beats, and that to me sort of becomes more prayer-like. That's usually when I'm in an anxious state, or I've got worries, or I'm not in a good place. The mala beads and a mantra is the best I can do. And but whatever I do, I'm always trying really, really hard to just be nice to myself, because you know me. I'm
very hard on yourself all the time, very critical of yourself.
And if I can't do it perfectly, and I can't be that A1A student, or I can't, then I am not in my comfort zone. So in my meditation practice, it's gotten to a point where I'm just as relaxed about it as I can be. And I do. It combines, to me, the word prayer, and I think I wrote about that in the blog, prayer and meditation have kind of become intertwined for me. And that also started with Ashtanga, because the prayer portion there's an opening and a closing to our practice. And I didn't know, I read what the opening was, but it's in Sanskrit. I'm not great with other languages. And so I sort of, out of respect for the practice, would say the chants, but in my head, I would be thinking about either intentions or prayers, like prayers for people or whatever is going on. And that translated into now with, mala beads and so on, I'll have to say a prayer. Usually there's about 3 people that I'm sending good love vibes to. Usually they're people that I'm pissed at, or, I'm annoyed with. But that, to me, meditation, I know there's a quote that says something like, prayer is asking from source, from God, and meditation is receiving. And to me, that feels true. Some of the biggest insights I've had into my own life, has come in my practice or sitting. There's one, I just started a new company. It's called Be Kind to Yourself. And that came from meditating, because I was just listening, and I was like, that shitty dialogue is so, there's no way I'm going to be able to be love and light and peace if my inner, fabric is full of you're a crappy person. You have a black heart, So it became an issue for me to be nice to myself. Every time I hear myself, even this weekend, and it's not something that's fixed with meditation or yoga. It's a constant practice. This weekend, I forgot what day. I didn't have the kids. It was Memorial Day weekend. And I did some day drinking, and by the time I got home, I was like,
day drinking, all that. Day drinking. Okay.
I went to bed early, and I was really beating myself up, because I was like, you should be more productive, and you could have done this, and you could have done that. And I was like, screw it. Just go to bed, and you deserve a break, and, you're fine. But that's the constant dialogue that I have to have with myself. And I think I'm doing great. Like, I listen to people. I have one of my best friends recently was sick, and the way she was talking about herself, about being sick, was when I was like, this is not just me. Most people don't treat themselves kindly. Like, they are so harsh to themselves. And that's when I was like, I want to work on that. I want to do something where people can at least start to practice something. What that something is, I don't know, but that will at least start to teach them to be nice to themselves. You can't love someone else if you don't love yourself first. And most people, I feel, don't love themselves, which is kind of a sad statement.
Yeah, totally. I mean, really. And because they're just so judgmental. I mean, it's just so.
And so many things, so much of the subconscious gets imprinted on us before we're aware. And sometimes, people will tell me their stories, or with the blog and the podcast, people will write into me and they'll tell me their stuff, and it's a perception that they have from something that happened when they were really little, and just how they heard something or how they saw something. That's their truth, and it's I think it behooves all of us to go back and look at what those belief systems are that we have, and you'll, I think, find that most of them aren't true. Like you told me, many moons ago.
Totally. I mean, I'm one of these that personally, something that happened to me when I was 5, it has nothing to do with me at 65. If I can't get over something that happened at 5 by now, man, it's I don't need to be walking around, because that is it's just a crock. Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, that's just my thoughts. But that doesn't define me. What happened to me when I was 5, or 10, or even 20, or 30. I am who I am today, and tomorrow's not coming back. So I just day to day.
Yeah, but you're tougher than the average bear. I mean, look at you.
Things are black or white. It's if you're hurt, you got to get up, you got to go. You can't feel sorry for yourself. You can lift yourself up and do whatever. Yeah. If you want to. You can't make yourself a victim. You can't live and your identity is that you were a victim of something, because you've got to just move forward. And
I agree with that.
You have to be tough. You have to be like a duck. Just let the water just run over your head and go.
Yeah. The only thing I'd counter that is that I do think that whatever that happened to you at 5, sometimes, people go to the worst case scenario, like, oh, you were beaten or raped, or no. I know someone who's afraid, has a fear because their parents told her how pretty she was in those years. So her biggest thing to overcome now is that. So I remember when she was telling me, I couldn't relate. I was in my head, totally judging her, poor, woe is you. You were told you were pretty.
Yeah.
But to her, that's real. That's her perspective, that she's of no value other than her looks. So I think it's up to her to figure that out for her.
Well, then in our society today, if you look at everything, it's always glamour. Yeah. Look at everything. It's glamour. It's you can be beautiful on the outside, man. You can be just a total demon on the inside. So it's better to be pretty on the inside than beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
And you are identified by your exterior instead of how you are inside. The same goes with with yogis and everything else. It's just because you can do asana, you can be a total butt wipe in your life, but I won't say that. But you can, So you're not, at the end of the day, you're just chasing the dragon, chasing asana, just to show how everything, how great you are at asana, and you're a total jerk to everyone around you. Then, I'd rather be the nicer guy where people remember you and say, he was a nice person. Yeah. Then, I'm glad he's dead. Did you put a stake in his heart when he died to make sure he didn't come back? So,
Yeah, there's a lot of that in the community, in the yoga community.
Oh, totally.
Pretend.
We try to get rid of ego, and we feed our egos by doing asana or showing ourselves doing this and that.
Yeah. Or, I like, the podcast is named Shit You Can't Make Up.
Yeah.
The website, Shit You Can't Make Up. I write about, I use curse words. I write about sex. And there's this feeling amongst certain people that, I can't really be a yogi or spiritual or, because I have this. And I'm like, I'm feeling pretty authentic.
Yeah, you're being truthful. I mean, you're not making stuff up.
Yeah.
I mean, you're being truthful.
Yeah, and I think that, I'm showing warts and all. Like, this is everything. So, yes.
You're not a phony. I mean, you're being totally 100% honest when you speak. So,
Yes, I get accused of that.
And honesty's good. Even sometimes honesty hurts.
Yeah.
But it's better to be honest and tell people what they want to hear, just because you're afraid of how they're going to react, because what they want to hear.
Well, this has been a great exercise, the podcast and the blog, because when people do react to it negatively, again, 5 years ago, I couldn't have handled that. I would have crawled in my bed in a fetal position, and now it's sort of like, oh, well, that's your opinion, and I value your opinion.
You respect it, yeah.
And I always, in anything I write, be it about politics, sex, meditation, yoga, I am not an expert. And, well, I'm going to say something. But it's, I feel like I don't really promote the stuff I write. It's for whoever wants to find it. And then there are people who have written in who have connected to what I've written. Who, there was one I wrote about, watching TV, how I could use TV as a way to zone out, like, and not in a healthy way. And a lot of people related to it. They're like, yeah, I find myself in a depressed mood and I'll just Netflix, And I'm like, yep, I've been there.
Oh, I do that. I mean, I love it when I can just sit there and watch something totally mindless, whether it makes me laugh or whatever. It's just like, it's fun. And years ago in Marisol, and the girls that were staying in the house, they were going like, so they would go shop, and they said, what? Because we had a dish TV at Mr. Joseph's, and they would say, what are you going to do? Watch the Violence Channel? Because every time I was in there, I'd watch kung fu movies and stuff. And it was like, oh, you're going to stay home and watch the Violence Channel? Yeah. And I was like, yeah, but it's mindless. Yeah. I can watch people kick in the air and do this and do that, and I'm perfectly happy with that. Yeah. It makes me happy watching them do totally mindless stuff. Yeah. So
there's a lot. I feel like there's a lot of judgment within the yoga community. A lot, like more like the irony or the little secret that you're not as enlightened as you think you are.
No, and most people that I look at, anybody that smiles all the time and is totally happy all the time, I feel it's a little phony, because no one is totally blissed out all the time. Yeah. There's too much other stuff going on that you're not going to move. I get angry. It comes, it goes, but I get annoyed with people.
This is very, very true.
It does. I get annoyed, and you'll know if I'm annoyed, because I can be a jerk in the shower if I'm annoyed. And so, and sometimes things carry over. If I walk in here annoyed, I'm going to be annoyed when I'm teaching. So little things that I'm normally not nitpicky about, I start getting anal about. But then the next day I'm maybe back to myself. So
you're like a sweet bear, but you can be angry bear.
And so, but I don't want to. But I don't worry about it, because that's who I am. I'm not going to.
You're not pretending. You are who you are.
And I'm just, then the next day, I'll be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But and I don't hold any grudges.
Yeah. And you'll always circle back and be like, "Hey, I didn't mean to. Did I? I was like, no.
I'm usually, even on Facebook, if I post like, I know if I was a jerk in the shower today, then I was really being a jerk. But that's just how it is for the day. It was jerk day.
Both my daughter Heather and I I'm doing a much easier version of an asana practice right now, just till I work through some issues with my right arm. And so she's been coming with me because she doesn't drive, and she couldn't come she was coming like at 5:30 in the morning to study with you for a while,
which was great for a 14-year-old at the time.
But she's been coming with me, and we both kind of laugh. Almost every time we get in the car after a class where we're going to now, we'll always kind of laugh because we have your voice in our heads. There's like this one girl who has an amazing like asana practice that shows up sometimes and jumps the count, like, and in this particular place they say do whatever, it's your practice, do whatever you need to do. They're not strict in that manner, but it still bugs the heck out of me. Like, it just bugs. It's like, show respect to the teacher. Like, I'm really disciplined in that way still. Don't jump the count. And Heather says the same thing. She's like, I always have his voice in my head. Yeah, Larry does that to you.
Yeah, don't jump the count.
That's fine.
That's like rolling through a red light. You're going to get a ticket.
Don't do it. You're listening. Yeah. I wasn't a count jumper.
No, I'd rather be a little behind than jump the count. Yeah. Don't anticipate.
Yeah, that's funny.
Same way in life. Don't anticipate. Don't expect something. It may change quickly.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for doing this and for talking to me. I always knew I would do it, having you on the call.
That's good. No, I love your podcast. I actually do, because it's like, I know that everything that comes out of your mouth, it's not going to be something that you sit there and wrote down to make it something. You're just going to talk off the top of your head, and say what you think. And if it pisses someone off, it pisses them off. If it gives them valuable information. But I find that most people that listen, if you listen, your normal reaction may not be what you want. And I'm sure you get people that just give you a hard time about something you said. But if they come back and they process it a while and they go, yeah,
it makes sense.
It makes sense. But sometimes all the information at once, just boom.
Yeah.
They can't handle it because it's not what they want to hear. But if they just take time, break it down, and listen to it, it definitely makes sense. I mean, on why people do things or why things happen.
Yeah.
And
I had someone write in once saying that, I don't know what I wrote. I don't remember what it was I wrote, that I was being so in their face with whatever I had written about that she couldn't finish reading it, and then she had to come back, and she's like, sometimes you have to be ready to hear, and that's kind of how I feel. Like, don't come to my website I'm not there to make you agree with me. I'm just processing my stuff, and if it helps someone else process their own stuff, then that's great. But
it's like listening to like Hannity or someone on the radio.
You're comparing me to Sean Hannity because I would give up my life.
But if you listen to a lot of these people that talk, they'll say things, and they'll get you. I mean, they'll get you annoyed. I mean, they'll get you angry. But then you go back and you listen, and it's like, he wasn't directing me at, that's his opinion.
Yeah.
On how he perceives things. I might think he's totally wrong.
Yeah.
And he may say, I'm totally wrong, but you know what? He doesn't know me, so I don't care if he thinks I'm totally wrong. That's the way I feel about it,
Yeah.
And my feelings about something is just as important as his, but I could care less. I'm not going to judge him like, oh yeah, he's a horrible guy. To me, he's comical. Yeah. I'll listen to him here and there when he was on, but it's like, I'm thinking like, man, it's because it's one of those things like, oh, it's nonsense. But then I said, oh, he might have had one good point out of 1 hour that he said. That was like, that made sense.
Yeah.
This other's garbage. But that's his garbage. I don't care. Because I'm not going to lose any sleep over anything he said at night.
Yeah.
So, and you're always going to have people that are going to disagree with you.
This has been a great lesson in it, because the ones that just, like, the ones I get the most negative feedback is usually the political ones. Or the
politics, religion, and three of my things are always like, don't discuss politics, don't discuss religion, and don't lend family members money.
Okay, 2 of the 3 are all about my blogs. No, but yeah, I hope that when I write, it comes off as authentic. Like, I'm not trying to pretend to be.
No, I've never thought anything you've done is funny. It always
rings true.
Yeah, I didn't like when you took a break for a while. It seemed like you had a good lull there for a while.
I did.
I was looking forward to always listening to your stuff.
It's the thing when I get a little successful. When like right now, there's about 3,000 people, and so when it was like 500 or anytime I hit like a mark, I get scared and just go into my little turtle shell. But now I've invested in this.
I like the fact you are back doing it, and also the fact that you don't overload. It's not like something you throw down there every single day, because then it becomes like everybody else. It's like give people something every now and then.
Yeah, someone told me that they enjoy binging my stuff. Like they won't.
And then they'll just get
and
it
then
all
they'll go
once.
in. I'm like, really? I can't even. I don't read what I write after it's published. Like I don't.
That's good.
I don't go back to it.
I like that. You don't read your hype.
I just don't. After it's up, I feel like I gave birth to it. Because the writing is not. Some of my friends have critiqued me for this, but it's like it's really what I feel like writing. It's I'm not working for anyone. This is all me. This is my little pet project. So I choose what, and it's usually what's going on in my life. It's very hard for me to get ahead in my writing because I don't know what I'm going to be thinking about, 3 weeks from now. But one last thing, and then I'll bring it to a close. But I wanted to ask you about, one thing when it comes to like yoga or meditation or anything, religion. Spirituality. Something that's happened with me is if anyone speaks in absolutes, I kind of get turned off. Like the older I get, the more I realize I know less. Does that make sense?
Oh yes,
and
totally.
When someone says this is like when I look like one of the most beautiful things about going to India that I loved was watching how the different deities are all respected. It's not like this is it. It's one true God, and if you don't respect this one true God, then you're going to, there's a range from being called an infidel to death to, pagan, whatnot. And I find that in yoga, and I find that also in meditation or any of the woo-woo studies that I have, that not everyone, most people are like, this is the only way to do it, and if it's not this way, it's not the pure. And I've like, you can write 1 million songs from 8 notes. You can take one line and give it to 10 different people, and they can come up with 10 different stories. And I just kind of feel like spirituality is sort of that way, too. It's not one road or 2 roads. I think it's infinite. I think people can find... It's in you. I know that. I've come to that. It's in us. But you can find that in your own way. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I agree. Like it's because your path is your path. There are many ways to get there, and the path you choose, it may not be someone else's path, but eventually all the roads come back to center if you're on the right path. And you choose whether you're going to be on the wrong path or the right path. Judging right and wrong. But as far as the equality, I am not a religious person. I like going into churches and looking. I like going to temples in India. I respect everyone's religion. I don't care who you are, because that's what you believe. It makes you feel good. If I can learn one little thing from each, then fine. I'm not going to go to church or anything like that. I like chanting. But I feel, at the end of the day, it's still up to me. Be a nice person. Take the time to listen to what, the inner self says.
Yeah. And
from there, I don't need anything else to,
validate.
To validate me. I feel like I'm a good person.
Yeah.
And I don't worry about saying, I'm not this, I'm not that, or whatever. And I respect our religion, believe, because in the end, no matter what, there is one supreme.
Yeah.
Female, male, both attributes. So it's not just the old boys club. There's a ladies club too. So, and just being a good person. And I find I've learned as I've gotten older that if you're just nice, everything else falls into place.
Yeah. I think it's easy. It's
easier being nice than it is to try to push people and hold that grudge or hold that anger, that resentment towards someone. It's just easier to be nice. But yeah, being human, you're never going to be perfect.
And I'm going to end it on this note. You know what Ashtanga did for me? I forgave my mom. Like, honest to God,
yes.
Forgave my mother through my practice of Ashtanga. So if you have listened to any...
Because I remember all the years you said it had been before you ever even associated or
I was just
took that time with her.
I was angry with her. I hated my mother from little till, probably a few years ago. I blamed her for everything. And I had a very narrow perspective. I could not understand the way she raised me. And it was through my practice that I just remember this one. First it happened where it happened at a teacher training first, which was I started crying and just uncontrollably crying. I couldn't understand it. I'm not a cry. I wasn't a crier before then, and I couldn't tell you. It wasn't something in my reality that was happening that caused me to have this like emotional release. But I had this huge emotional release that happened again at the Shala after I started practicing Ashtanga. Elaine was there with me. I think you were in India. Again, couldn't tell you why, but just started crying. But it was through the practice and the discipline that I started listening to, and I started to see her as a single mother, and started to see her as a woman, and started to see her as her own individual person who was just trying to do the best she could.
Which is what you were experiencing as well.
Yeah, and so, that's huge. That's a huge moment of growth for me, and that came from the practice. I came from my practice and my studies with you, so thank you.
You're welcome.
My mother thanks you. No, she doesn't now. All right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Now we'll get you back here in the shower.
I know. I'm not practicing Ashtanga right now, this side note. And I didn't want to discuss it because, there's that people think, repetitive. It's not. I have some nerve damage in my right arm, and that the one thing I know for sure at this point is that chaturangas are not my friend.
Don't do chaturanga.
That's my heart. That's my ego is to come back to the Shala right now. I'm not ready. I have to. It should be too hard to go from. Remember I could do, what is it called? Back bend, come forward, Chakrasana. My ego can't, I don't know. But I miss it. I do miss it. Just walking up the path, I was like, oh.
We practice to let go of the ego.
I know. But
because believe me, you'll never get a trophy, and I'll never give you a gold star.
No.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. I know I'll be back. I know you have that sense too.
I know you will. You'll come back when you're ready. But you have to be ready. Not because I want you to be here. I would love for you to be here. Yeah. But, when you're ready, you'll be back.
I just, I need to, I don't know what my path is taking me right now. I guess meditation. Just kidding. All right.
But because yoga can come in, it can manifest itself in many different ways.
It does. Yeah.
There's many different services of yoga. If it's just about the asana, then it's not yoga. Mm-mm. Then you're just.
I'm just glad I'm back on the mat, even though it's not here at the Shala, and it's not. You suggested the place that I'm going to now, and they were actually surprised when. I said, no, he recognized. He's like, oh, he's such a great guy. I'm like, yeah, I know. But it's just, to me, that's not, like, I'm not practicing yoga when I'm in those classes. That's me just moving my body, breathing, but it's not, I can't, it's not the same. It's not the same, as when I practice Ashtanga.
And it's so funny because most of the teachers there come here.
I know.
Which is awesome. Which I love because they have their own time to do, for themselves.
That's important.
Which is good because they need time for themselves as well. You have to disconnect from where you're at all the time. In a work environment, you have to have your own sacred space to be.
Well, and this is going to sound really judgmental, but my personal opinion is I don't think you should call yourself a yoga teacher unless you've studied a lot of the disciplines. And Ashtanga is a discipline. And I study it. You know, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be your life practice, but I mean, it breaks you down, it rebuilds you. And I don't know how you leave a teacher training, you know, at the Sunsbury Hotel.
Yeah, you definitely need you need some, you know, you need some time and grade, you need some experience, and, you know, and that comes. It does come, but you do need, and it's good not to dabble so much, because, you know, like I said, if you dig too many little holes, you never get the big hole dug. And at some point in time, you got to commit, like, to dig that hole, because you're not going to hit water unless you dig deep, and them little shovel scoops aren't going to dig that hole to get that well dug to get the water out, but you want that flowing to find yourself, you know. So, but you can't. But there is some searching, like, no matter what, you know, you always want to search, because if you never sought to learn anything, you just might as well just stay on your couch. Yeah,
that's my, like, biggest pet peeve with the Western yoga industrial complex are these teacher trainings. I just am not, and I'm a student of one of them. I wish they would just call them something else, you know, like deepening your practice, learning about, you know,
or self-growth.
Self-growth, but don't call it a teacher training, because you can't. I don't think you can be a teacher after.
So I will say this. So once in conference, you know, someone asked Sharad about teacher trainings, and he said, you know, every time he said, like, no teacher training in Ashtanga. You know, he works with his teacher specifically, does training, just working with adjustments and philosophy and all as well, and like, gives his thoughts. But he says, like, every time you come to your mat and you practice, that's your training, because you're learning about you, which you can, because unless you know and can feel, how can you teach others unless you know? You know, so you have to dig deep and understand. That way you can relate on what someone's going through.
Yeah, I am.
And getting assist, you know, and also, like, getting adjustments to someone. It's like you're getting assist, and then you take notice to how your body reacts, and then you look when you're assisting, and you look at what do they need, like what do they need to assist them? Why am I going to give them this? Don't assist just to assist, but assist to help them learn about themselves, and then that way, if they're teaching or just helping, then they know that, oh, this person needs this, you know. So hopefully I can give them enough of this where they can understand. But at some point you gotta cut that cord, and then they need to be doing it on their own.
Yeah. No, I agree. I am teaching at my house or a friend's house. I have two friends who one had surgery, and actually both of them had surgeries, and so I've just been practicing with them on Wednesdays. So I have started to teach, but it's teaching the way I always kind of wanted to, which was not as a career, because and you know, you and I've had this conversation before, I've just never felt like I had anything to teach. Like, I'm still a student. I'll always be a student. Yeah,
any teacher that says they know it all, beware, because we're always students. I mean, we're always students. You can always learn. Yeah. We're always students. Yeah. You know, and that's why, you know, I do my best to get back to India. Every year, you know, to see my teacher, get his advice. And I love being able to go in there and talk to him, ask him questions like, what should I be doing? This and that, you know, just get his opinion. Like, he might say something, I'll say, well, why were you discussing this? And he'll tell me, you know, but personally, like, what it means to him and how he perceives things, and talking to me, which gives me a better understanding on why he might have said something. But I always do it in private, talking with him, because it's a personal thing between him and I when we talk, which I like that, because we do have that connect, that it's nice to get his point, because I value his respect. Because if I hear him, I'm hearing things that same questions he probably asked his grandfather. Yeah. Or what his grandfather told him. A lot more wisdom than, you know, I'll ever have, but he'll share it with you. He had the opportunity to have someone have that guidance all through, and so I definitely always respect his opinion, and he talks in a manner that I can understand.
When I studied with him in India, he I joking, this is before my big forgiveness of my mother moment. I remember I was in India and I was like, I just wanted it. I put too much on that trip. like emotional. I wanted it to be my everything. I wanted it to like find God and, you know, let go of the past. Just, you know, and it wasn't. It was it was God giving me the, you know, the perfect example of life is life, you know, and take the beauty with the beauty and take the bad with the bad, and you know, it just and I saw so many things that I appreciated. Like, you know, we went to this one temple where it didn't feel religious or spiritual at all. It was just a lot of, you know, shelling for money for blessings. And then we went to other places where you could just feel you know, there is something about India. There is, I don't know how to describe it, but the veil is thinner there. You see people in their eyes with the happiness and the smile, even knowing what they've gone through and been through. So there's something about India, though I have absolutely no desire to go back.
and India is what you're either going to love it or hate it, or or even if you hate it the first time you go there, you're going to at some point in time, you know, you're going to feel like you're ready to go again.
I think
and then the longer you stay, it feels more comfortable. But it will flip your world upside down, you know.
It did.
And then on a short trip, it's hard to do that because you get overloaded with so many different things. You know, like you said, seeing people. You know, those who have nothing are happy.
Yes.
You can tell in their eye, and they have nothing. They don't even know they're going to eat that night, but yet they're still happy.
And they'll give you the clothes off their back.
Yeah,
like it's.
I mean, so it's an amazing thing. And then here, you know, it seems like in our society, the white people, it's like it's always, you know, it's more about themselves and it's not about others a lot, and it's very materialistic and want. And so it's like learning to.
I think what kicked me in the butt in India more than anything was when I left was getting dysentery.
Oh my
and
goodness.
then being on one of those trains for 5 hours with the worst case of dysentery ever.
That is not...
Just scarred... I think it just, you know, scarred me.
It's not a way you want to end your trip.
No, it wasn't.
With Delhi Valley.
It was a nice goodbye.
Goodbye, India.
Goodbye, India. So, yeah. But I do think I'll go back. There's lots of other places I want to go to first, but I want to go back with my kids. I think everyone should experience. It's just a hard concept to try to explain, but the beauty of seeing Shiva's the tall, the tall Shiva. Not monument, statue? I mean, huge.
Yeah, the deity.
The statue, deities, yes. And then you go into the next town, and it's it's such level of.
But like you said earlier in the talk, it's that there is so much respect for each and every one, because everyone, when you look, they all represent the different.
It's like the reincarnation of the same source.
Yes.
That you know, and I love that idea.
They all have the attributes of. Or whatever, the universal consciousness, or whatever you want to call him, Bubba, if you want to. But
universe,
whatever. But it is, and it's very, very respectful.
Yeah, I love that, and I wish we had more of that, because I feel like we're getting even more and more fundamentalist with, you know, that we're a Christian nation. I'm like, I respect it. But I wish we could open up our minds to just maybe, you know.
Yeah, and just acceptance. Yeah. And be more open instead of it being more.
All right, now we're really going to say goodbye.
Yeah, now we need to really say goodbye. Goodbye, Marisol.
All right, thank you for listening.